Hey, shalom, shalom, mishpocha. Welcome to another edition of the Haftarah Hashings. This is Haftarah Hashings number 44, and it's called Devarim, which means words, and it's taken from Isaiah chapter 1, verses 1 through 27. Here, Yeshayahu Hanavi, Isaiah the prophet, opens his book, and just a few verses into it, he just starts blasting Israel. Now, many people have taken the first chapter of Isaiah totally out of context. If nobody has any education in the Torah or any background in the Torah or is not rooted in the Torah in any way, and if you come from any Christian denomination, most likely you're going to see Isaiah chapter 1 as God being negative against the Torah, being negative against the law, being negative against the feast of the Lord, which he commanded us and proclaimed for us to observe in Leviticus chapter 23. But on the contrary, this is not what Adonai is saying through Yeshayahu, through Isaiah at all. He's actually saying just the opposite. But many people take this out of context and say, we're not supposed to keep traditions and customs and rituals and blah, 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 blah. There is nothing wrong with customs, rituals, traditions. It's what we do with them, how we outwardly manifest them, how we fulfill them, which makes it right or wrong, which makes it what we should do or what we shouldn't do, which makes it positive or negative. So let me read to you the verse that most people take out of context. Isaiah chapter 1 verse 11 says, "To what purpose is the multitude of your sacrifices unto me, says Adonai? I am full of burnt offerings and rams, and the fat of fed beasts. And I delight not in the blood of bullocks or lambs, or of the goats. When ye come to appear before me, who hath required this of your hand, to tread my courts? Bring no more vain oblations. Incense is an abomination unto me. The new moons and Sabbaths, and the calling of the assemblies, I cannot away with. It is iniquity, even the solemn meeting. Your new moons and your appointed feast, my soul hateth. They are a trouble unto me, and I am weary to bear them. When you spread forth your hands, I will hide mine eyes from you. Yes, when you make many prayers, I will not hear. Your hands are full of blood." Wow. So, what is this saying? Is God saying that he hates the feast? That he hates the sacrificial oblations he commanded Israel to perform? Does it say that he hates the rituals? Is he doing away with the very Torah he commanded? Did God make a mistake in giving us the law? What's God trying to say here? If you read it at face value, in that portion that I read, you could very well get the impression that God is saying, you know what? I'm just sick of all these feasts and these Sabbaths and these new moons and these sacrifices. I'm just sick of them. I just wish you wouldn't do them. I just wish you would do away with them. It makes it sound like that God never gave the Torah, or at best that God is negating the Torah and going against his own word. Well, we know the scriptures say that God is the same yesterday, today, and forever, that he never changes and he never lies. So therefore, we've got to look at this and say, wait, this is not saying what I think it's saying. So what is it really saying? Okay, if God is the same yesterday, today, and forever, that he is a God who changes not, he cannot lie, then if he's not saying that he's sick of the feast and sick of the sacrifices and sick of the new moons and the Sabbaths, what is he really saying here? He's saying that he's sick of how Israel is carrying them out. Basically, they're just going through the motions. They're going through the sacrifices, they're going through the feasts, they're going through the Sabbaths and the new moons with ritual rote. They're just keeping it on the outside and not keeping it on the inside. The observance of the feast, the observance of the Torah, the observance of the law, the observance of the Sabbaths and new moons must come from within out. It's an inside-out process, not an outside-in process. We don't keep the feast by osmosis, by just doing it outside. Then it'll hit us on the inside. Oh, wow, this is great. No, we keep it on the inside. He said, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. We keep it on the inside with love, with joy, with fervor, with zeal, and let all that manifest on the outside. That's how we should keep the feasts. That's how we should keep the Sabbaths and new moons. And that's the point that God is trying to drive home here. He's saying that he's tired of the feast, sacrifices, and rituals being observed half-heartedly out of meaningless mechanical habit. It may be being performed outwardly, as if it's an attempt to put a mark on God's to-do list for mankind, or just to be able to say you've done it and to satisfy requirements. But no, God is a jealous God, according to Exodus chapter 20, verse 5, 34:14, Deuteronomy 5:9, and 6:15, and Nahum 1:2, and Joel 2:18. Basically, God wants all or nothing. He's basically saying, if you are, I want you, I've commanded you, I desire you to keep the feast, to keep the Sabbaths, to keep the new moons, to keep the Torah. And it's okay to keep these customs and rituals. But I want you to do it with your whole heart. I want you to do it because you want to, not because you have to. The motivation should be love, because you love me, because you want to do these things for me. If you're going to do it half-heartedly, I wish you wouldn't just do it at all. Just don't even bother. And that's what God is trying to say here. If you're not going to give your best, and if you're not going to do your best, and if you're not going to do it out of love and out of a whole heart, and you're just doing it for brownie points, doing it, to mark off the checklist, oh, yep, here's a commandment, I've done this one, then God says don't do it at all. He doesn't want it. He doesn't like it. It stinks. It's just like maybe somebody throwing a party for you. If somebody's throwing a party for you because somebody twisted their arm to do it because they feel forced to do it, it's going to be, for he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow, which nobody can deny. Yay, congratulations. Does anybody want a party like that? No. The person's only doing it because they've been forced to, or because they feel they have to, because it's obligation. You're not going to enjoy that party. You're like, man, I just wish you had never thrown it. I feel worse before you threw this party for me. Or, even before you threw this party for me, I feel worse now than I did before. I just wish you wouldn't have done it. And God's saying the same thing about the feasts, Sabbaths, and the sacrifices. He's like, look, you're making me feel worse. I just wish you had never done it. I felt a whole lot better when you just never did them. But now that you're doing them half-heartedly and doing them, slipshod, and just doing them because you feel you have to out of obligation and mechanical ritual religious rote, thinking that you're going to merit favor with me, you're not doing it out of love, so it doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't matter. It's the same, it's just like somebody throwing a party for you because they feel they have to. You're not going to like it. It's not going to mean anything to you. Same with the feasts. Same with the Sabbaths and new moons and keeping the Torah and the sacrifices. God's not going to appreciate it. It's not going to mean anything to him unless you keep it out of love and out of fervor and zeal, and because you love him, because you want to, not because you have to. So this is the Haftarah portion for this week. Thanks for watching. Shalom and Shavuot Tov. Bye-bye.